Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a delicious but very simple scone recipe. I'll have the ingredients for the recipe playing on the video. Wanted to take some time out today just to try and enjoy some of the simple things that give me joy, and baking is one of them. I wouldn't consider myself much of a baker, but I do enjoy it. I've been feeling slightly lost lately, especially since I returned from visiting my family in South Africa, and I just felt like I needed some sort of a reset, or just to press pause on a few things and to review, because I've been reflecting a lot while I've been away. So I've been in quite a long waiting season the past few years, and I'm only just about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Mostly what I've been waiting on God for has to do with what I feel like I'm meant to do with my life. I have a job, I've got a lovely family, and overall I feel content in my personal life. I feel happy, more than content. I feel quite happy in my personal life. Not so much though when it comes to my career. In the past, I haven't always really known what I wanted to do. I grew up thinking that being a writer is something I think that I wanted to do. And obviously I grew up and realized that writing was never going to pay the bills, which is pretty ironic right now, because I eventually came to have a blog, and I do have a blog right now. But I just thought that writing was going to be a source of income because it was just such a passion, even from the age of 6. Honestly, the last 5 years has mostly been spent waiting on God. It's been the longest waiting season of my life, I have to say. And on this journey of waiting on God for his promises, I've cried, I've given up hope, and I've almost stopped believing in the promises that he gave me years ago. It's been, to say the least, it's been a roller coaster of up and downs. But in all of this, somehow I still feel like I've managed, by his grace, to continue in obedience, even if I wasn't always consistent. I wasn't always consistent in putting up videos and doing the things that God placed in my heart. But I think a lot of that had to do with my mental health. I think my mental health was just such a big barrier in me being able to step out in obedience. Thankfully, God knows my heart, and he's been so patient with me, even when I've been impatient with myself. I often find myself wondering what God has in store for me for the future. I've always been really insecure, especially when it comes to careers, mainly because I've never had a clear career path, and I'm in my early 40s. I've been in and out of jobs, and I've always thought at the back of my mind that, do you know what, this can't be what I'm meant to be doing for the rest of my life. And I didn't think that just because I'm not hardworking or anything like that. It just didn't always feel like was my path until I died. It just didn't feel that way to me. Sitting in an office 9 to 5, I've done that. I've done the ins and outs. I can't say I've ever had a passion for anything to do with an office job. It's just been my day-to-day. I know that I've got a very creative mind that God has blessed me with, but I also do believe that we have different seasons, and there are some seasons where we have to be in certain jobs where perhaps, we're just sort of ticking time, if that makes sense, until God opens the door for the next thing or the next season. When I think about the promises that God has made me in the past, I'm reminded of the story of the Shimomite Woman in the Book of Kings. And this story really touched my heart because I felt like I could really relate to this woman. So in the Book of Kings, the story of the Shimomite Woman is about a woman who, she realizes there's a prophet who comes in and out of town and speaks to her husband and asks him, or mentions to her husband, that they should offer him a shelter or be hospitable to him, so that every time he comes into the town, he's got somewhere to stay. He's got his own room with a bed and a table. And one day when the prophet comes into town, he's been to this woman's house a few times now. And so he asks the servant, what can be done for this woman for all her kindness? Now, bear in mind, this woman, she's a very well-to-do woman, but this woman doesn't have a child. So his servant asks the woman, and initially she says there's nothing that can be done. And then the prophet asks her again, and later on, the servant comes back and mentions to Prophet Elijah that the woman doesn't have any children and her husband is old. So the prophet later comes to the woman and tells her that 1 year from now, she will be holding a baby in her arms. And as soon as the prophet says this, she tells him that he shouldn't promise anything that he won't be able to deliver. And this really spoke to my heart, because I actually understood the woman's reluctance to believe what Elisha was saying to her. And with me, I'm not quite fulfilled in my career as yet. This is something that in the past, I think, I've been a little bit ashamed of. Like when people ask you, what do you do? And, I really don't like that question, because I'm not really doing what I like to do. But as I mentioned before, I am very content and happy in my personal life. And then I think about the Shimomite woman, and I just wonder, was she actually ashamed that she couldn't bear children? Like, her husband was old and she couldn't have them. I wonder if she was ashamed, because back in that time, being a woman and not having children would have been a source of embarrassment for her. And I feel like her reluctance to believe Elisha's promise of a child also meant that she accepted her fate of being childless. And when I look at my family, and I'm just so grateful for what I've been blessed with, like what God has given me. And then I sort of look at myself, if you minus the title of mum and wife, I still have my own passions, I still have my own aspirations, I have my dreams for the future. And, in the past I have tried to make certain things work, to make a living off, but nothing has quite materialized yet. And just lately, as I've been reflecting and as I've been waiting for God's promises to pass, I've really been just trying to take joy in the small things. That's something that I've learned so far, is just taking joy in the small things and taking things day to day. And some of the things I enjoy, like you see me doing, making scones or cooking or baking or doing some gardening and just in general homemaking. It might not sound like much, but homemaking is something, it's just been a passion of mine, making my home look nice. As you see what I'm doing here, it's just something that just gives me a lot of joy, even cleaning. But I really don't know what is next for me in the future. I know what God has promised. I know it will come to pass, but I have to be honest and just say that even though I can see the lights at the end of the tunnel, I've kind of been left wondering what to do in between. I do believe that God has been using this time to shape and mold me, just to make sure that I'm actually prepared for what He's got next. I feel like I've been dreaming for so long, and now I'm actually ready to see what it actually looks like.